Hey everyone, today I'll be making an arroz frito, like my mom likes to call it. I typically don't make this type of white rice, but the usual parboiled version wasn't available at the store. Here's what we'll be using today. Long grain white rice, tomato, onion, green pepper, better than bouillon, adobo, a little bit of butter, and olive oil. Alright, let's get to it. Let's start off by measuring the amount of rice we'll be using. I'm just making a small portion today, so a little over a cup will suffice. This much weighs around 200 grams. I've always rinsed the rice I make. It just feels better to do that. It's probably not necessary to do because it comes in a sealed bag. Also, they powder vitamins onto it. Thus, if you rinse the rice, you'll lose those vitamins. Since I'm not relying on vitamins powdered onto rice for my daily intake, I don't mind rinsing it. To rinse, I like to use a shallow container. That way I can use less water. I'll fill it up enough to cover the rice and then give it a gentle scrub. When possible, I save the vitamin water. I mean the rice water, and my plants get to enjoy this nutritious treat. I rinse the rice twice. That's enough to mostly clear up the water. Using more than that just feels wasteful. I'll keep the rice in a strainer inside the container so it can continue to drip out any water. Now let's dice the ingredients. I don't measure these when I make rice, I just go by feel. But since I'm making a recipe, it'll make it more reproducible. For the green pepper, I ended up using 26 grams. The tomato was 80 grams. And for the onion, I used 27 grams. While you're preparing your ingredients, you can heat up your pot. I'm doing it after just because I have to move the camera around. Let's use medium heat. Once the pot has warmed up, first I'll add 1 teaspoon or 4 grams of olive oil, spread that around, and then add a small dab or 8 grams of butter. When the butter is melted, add the diced ingredients. Let's add some spices. 1 teaspoon or about 3 grams of kosher salt. I use Diamond Crystal kosher salt, which is less salty than regular salt. 1/4 teaspoon or about 1.5 grams of adobo spice mix. If you want to use more adobo, don't forget that they add salt to it. Next, we'll add half a teaspoon of better than bouillon. I like to use this instead of the traditional cubes, aka cubitos. Half a teaspoon would be equivalent to half of a cubito. Oh, by the way, cubito is the diminutive way of saying cube in Spanish. Last but not least, let's add our rice. Let's give it a nice mix to spread out everything. Since we added the rice, that brought the temperature down of the pot. Once it's heated up again and you hear a sizzle, it's time to stir. Now that we're hearing that sizzle, we know why it's called arroz frito. It translates to fried rice. We're frying the rice before we cook it with water. Frying the rice with all the spices and fat increases the flavor. The butter and better than bouillon work together to give us a savory flavor profile, while the onion, green pepper, and tomato add some freshness and color to the mix. The fire isn't high, so you can stir this once in a while, but keep an eye on it. It'll be ready for us to add the water once the tomato has dissolved and all you see is the peel. Okay, time for a generous 1.5 cups or around 341 grams of water. Now, I like to scrape the bottom of the pot to get any built up fond. Cook uncovered for around 8.5 minutes. Once the water starts to dry up, you'll hear some sizzle. Check with a spoon to see if indeed there is no water left. That should be around the 8-minute mark. Lower the fire to a very low setting. Before covering it, I like to pile up the rice and make a little mountain. I feel it cooks better this way. Once that's done, cover the pot and cook for around 9.5 minutes. Once the 9.5 minutes are up, uncover, taste the rice to make sure it's ready, and remove it from the heat. Leave it uncovered as it will continue to cook if you place the lid again. Now let's serve some and see how it came out. The rice is fluffy, soft, and has a smooth, savory taste that's not overpowering or salty. It's still very hot, but it tastes great. Later on in the week, I made a black bean soup with boneless short ribs. It felt appropriate for the type of weather these days. Adding a bit of rice to the soup is a great compliment. I can't wait to dig in. What's your favorite type of rice, and how do you make it? Let me know your response in the comments. If you found this video useful, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.